Ladies and gentlemen, today we're discussing dash cams and whether or not you should use one. This one right here is the, what is this called? Viofo A129 Mini 2. I've actually been using Viofo dash cams since 2014 or 2015 with my FRS. I actually have another set of dash cams around here somewhere. Bam! So, I got this one as well. This is a 119 Pro or 129 Pro, I'm not sure. This one as well. So these two used to be in my Scion FRS. I did one in the front, one in the back. And if you look at my other cars, in my CX-50, I got a Viofo. This is the 129 Pro Duo, I believe. So they have a single camera up front, which is the higher quality one, and then a second one in the back. And this one I got professionally hardwired. This guy came to my house, did it for about $100. He hardwired it. You can also do it yourself. I think, compared to what I do, they do a little bit more of a polished job, tuck everything in the right way. And in my GR86, same thing. I got the same camera, and also goes to the back. Now, as you guys know, I'm getting a Lotus Emira. And what I'm probably going to do there is have two separate cameras. Now, when you have one of these duo cameras that shoots front and then is tied to a rear camera, you can actually press the emergency button, or like the event button, and that'll save it and prevent it from being overwritten. But I don't think that's that big of a deal, because if you use a sufficiently large memory card, I usually use 256 gigs in these, it's gonna write for like, well over 12 hours. So the chance of you overwriting is pretty low. And if you actually do have an incident, you can stop, whatever, go back there and press the button if you really wanted to. So the reason I'm gonna probably do two separate cameras moving forward is because you get better image quality having two separate cameras versus one camera with two. But, depends on how much you actually care. So today I'm gonna put this up in my car. We're gonna drive around, we're gonna test it out, and talk a little bit about dash cams. One reason why I've been using Viofo, again, I started using them in 2015, and then if I look at my Amazon orders, so I first got looks like the A118 2015. The polarizing lens is important to make sure you don't get any glare and such on the camera, because if there's an accident, someone hits you and you need that as evidence, but there's glare, loses a lot of the utility. Then I got the A119 Pro in 2019, again with the polarizing filter, and then more recently I got the A129, and it's been I got so many of these. So the polarizing filter is like this, and the reason I've loved using these cameras, I was way back when I was doing all this research on these cameras, I wanted the one that's sleek, because if I park my car and there's something that's hanging down that's pretty big and bulky, then someone's going to break into my car and steal it, right? So these are super stealth. You can barely see it because they have this wedge shape, which is really intelligent. Also, you want to have high image quality, right? So Viofo is generally using one of the leading sensors. I believe this one has the new Starvis 2 sensor. And this is only 2K, not 4K, which you may think isn't as good, but similar to how the Sony a7S III, lower resolution, much better low light performance. Let's get that polarization filter on. So these actually perform better in low light than the A129s I have. And now they have a new A139, and my understanding is that this still performs better in low light, but in bright light, that performs better. So then it's kind of a trade-off, and I think this probably performs good enough in the daytime that its nighttime performance is probably a greater benefit, because the gap between the performance of daytime versus nighttime is greater at night versus during the day. So we'll put that to the test. I am not going to hardwire this, but I will be using this kit on my Lotus Emira. And the reason why having a dash cam is so important is really for insurance reasons. So you don't want to be in a situation where you get in an accident at an intersection and it's he said, she said. Sure, there might be some other witnesses around, maybe there aren't. And this is just such a good, effective way to have insurance, right? I also will always run these when I'm at the track. So I always have footage from my dash cams, from my FRS and my GR86 whenever I'm at track, both the front and the back, because these things are just always recording by default. This is only a 64 gig. I would recommend at least 128. I'm doing 256. Have to make sure you're using a high endurance card. Now keep in mind, guys, I'm not a professional dashcam reviewer. Vortex Radar has a really great, thorough, in-depth review of this. I personally don't find things like the Wi-Fi. You know, like when I was looking at this versus other cameras, I think it was like Blackview. Like there are some dash cams that they use the same sensor, so the image quality isn't any better. And in fact, the chipset for the compression and all that stuff is actually sometimes worse. So they may have worse image quality than these Viofos, but then they're like, oh, we got this, like, all these advanced features. Like, dude, I don't really care about, I mean, this does have Wi-Fi, but back when I was buying these cameras, the older versions, they didn't have Wi-Fi. It's like, dude, all I need is a sleek design and high image quality at a reasonable price, because everything else is just a gimmick, and you're really, you know, these files are large, and even with 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, it's better to just take the SD card out, throw it in your computer. You can copy gigs and gigs way faster. You know, every time I go to the track day, I'm recording hours of content. I just pop this out, stick it on my computer, copy everything over, and it's faster. But yeah, you could do Wi-Fi if you really wanted to. I think you use these things so infrequently that it's not that big of a deal. So for the other cameras, what we do is we use the sticky, this little static film thing. You can see it's cut around here. Actually, I guess he did a really good job. Made it super small. But that way you're not getting this 3M tape stuck on, and you know, I have tint right here, so I like to stick this here. I'm not going to install this permanently. I'm just going to stick it somewhere around here and put it in my cigarette lighter just to do a test. They should give you 2 in case you mess up the first. This is useful for scraping off the adhesive. These are USB-C, the newer ones, which is great. The older ones were not. And then you also have another 3M sticky if you need it. Now for long-term use, I would never have it like this. What I did in my previous cars is I would snake it right here between the actual pillars or the roof and the windscreen. And then normally I would tuck it in the glove box. There's often a cigarette adapter there or someplace else. That's how I did it in my FRS. But now I just hire someone to do the hardwire kit, and I could do it myself, but you know, $100 and an hour of my time is currently worth it for me. So step 1, we're going to peel this side off. And what I've actually done previously is cut this into pieces. Maybe I should do that just because I can then get more use out of this, right? I can apply this. It's also not as ugly when you just have one smaller piece versus a single larger piece. All right, got our smaller piece. Peel off this side. I'm not being super precise with the location because I'm not gonna keep it here. Just want to test out the camera. Peel off the second side. Now this film is pretty secured there. I can remove it if I want to, but it's stuck there. And you're actually able to mount this in two different ways. You can mount this here like this and plug into the power directly, but I prefer like this because now you have, first of all, a GPS module, which you can also disable if you wanted to, but it's easier to, you know, remove it if you wanted to. Going to Oakland and don't want your shit jacked because we all know how crazy that stuff is. Bada boom, bada bing. So I can remove that, see where the plug actually is located. Oh, it's on this side. We got power, baby. One other thing is that they do voice commands now, which I don't need that feature. I'm not going to use it because based on what the radio is saying or the conversations I'm having with my passengers, it may misunderstand me, or I may say something that would trigger the starting or stopping of that recording. So you stop the recording, then you can go into the settings here. Resolution 30 or 60. If you go into 60 and enable HDR, it goes down to 30 anyways. I want high bitrate. I do want loop recording. 5 minutes is what I've always done. HDR, yes, because you're going to get, the times when it's you have a wider dynamic range, brighter brights, darker shadows, then you're going to increase the likelihood you're going to retain that license plate detail or whatever you need in case you get in an accident. I haven't used the parking modes. The G sensor I find is sometimes a little bit too sensitive, so I like to make this at high sensitivity, otherwise I get a lot of false positive just going over a bump. And I do like audio. And then you can change the actual, the numbers that are embedded on the actual video, but we'll skip that for now.
Recording started.
Yeah, we'll go back to recording. And boom, let's go drive. All right, so now we're on the road. The screen will automatically turn off. It'll start up, it'll have whatever its splash screen, and then show the screen on for some period of time. And then it turns off, but then it's recording because of these lights. Now going back to daytime versus nighttime, a lot of modern cameras have, at least if they're using a relatively recent sensor and chipset, they're going to have good resolution and clarity during the daytime. But it's at nighttime that you start seeing still more variation. So what I like about this camera is that low light is markedly improved because you have fewer and larger pixels, right? So it's same with the Sony a7S III, where it doesn't have as many pixels, so if you take a photo, you're not going to be able to zoom in and pixel peep as much, but you'll have much better clarity and less noise at night, right? Similar thing applies here, which I very much appreciate. In Vegas, you definitely need a dash cam because literally not a single day goes by without having a close call. There are many other dash cams out there, but nothing else gives you the same bang for your buck as this, because this gives you the best possible image quality. You have the latest sensors, you have a new chipset as well, and it's at a decent price, and it's a really nice sleek form factor. I would put this further up, it becomes even more sleek, so it's not like right on the the visible part of the windshield. and that's why I've been buying variations of this, the previous versions, ever since 2015. It's just that good. I've used it across my FRS, now my GR86, now my CX50, and this one I'll be putting in my Lotus Emira, which I should be getting in late spring to early summer of next year. And we'll see. I might do 2 of these front and back, or I might do a 139 Pro in the front and this one in the back, or some variation of. Looking at the footage here at night, you can see the A119 Mini 2 is noticeably better than the A129 Pro Duo at night. Again, during the day, the 4K has a bit of an edge because you have such bright light. You're not being restricted by the issues of low light, right, and having very small pixels. But the Mini 2 during the daytime also does great. There was a time in med school you have to do away rotations, and I was so paranoid because I've seen all these stories online about various scams that they blame you because you don't have video proof. I literally took an old, not a GoPro, but a knockoff version of a GoPro, and I stuck it as a suction cup when I was renting a car in Ohio so that if something happened, I would be protected. So I think having a dash cam is very important. It's a one-time fee, $100, $150, and you're protecting yourself, right? And then if you're a car enthusiast, you drive on fun canyon roads or you go to the racetrack, then you also have that as an added benefit. You can save those recordings for your own enjoyment. So when Viofo reached out to me, they said, hey, we want to send you a product. You want to do a video about it? I said, yeah, absolutely. Actually, I've been using your guys' product for the last 8 years, so I would be happy to feature this and recommend it because I use it myself. Let me know if you have a favorite dash cam. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next one.